The skies above the alien world of Zerion were painted in fire and smoke. Human ships and alien warcraft had clashed in orbit only hours ago, and debris still burned as it fell through the atmosphere. Among the wreckage, a single human vessel had been struck, its engines destroyed. The ship spiraled down and crashed into the barren plains outside the alien capital. From that wreck emerged Captain Elias Veron, bruised but alive. His uniform was torn and his body ached from the impact, but his spirit did not break. He knew he was deep within enemy territory, surrounded by those who viewed humans as nothing more than violent intruders. Still, he pushed himself forward, determined to face whatever awaited him. It did not take long for alien soldiers to arrive. They surrounded him with their sleek weapons, their tall, elegant forms casting long shadows in the fading sun. Elias raised his hands calmly, offering no resistance. His quiet composure puzzled the soldiers who had been trained to expect fear, hatred, or defiance from humans. "Bind him," one soldier ordered. "The princess will want to see this prisoner herself." The mention of royalty surprised Elias. He had not expected to be taken before a ruler so quickly. His hands were tied with glowing restraints, and he was led through the shining gates of the alien capital. Towers of crystal and silver rose into the sky, reflecting the orange glow of sunset. It was a city of beauty and power, so different from Earth, yet Elias saw the same things humans built into their own cities: homes, markets, people going about their lives. At last, he was brought into a grand hall, its walls alive with flowing light. At its center stood Princess Serenia, heir to the throne of Zerion. Her presence was commanding, her tall figure dressed in flowing robes that shimmered like starlight. Her eyes, sharp and silver, studied Elias with a mix of suspicion and curiosity. The soldiers forced him to kneel, but Elias kept his head high, meeting the princess's gaze without fear. "So this is the human," Serenia said slowly, her voice calm but edged with disdain. "The creature who dares trespass into our skies." Elias spoke evenly, his tone respectful but steady. "I did not choose to trespass, princess. My ship was struck. I had no wish to fall upon your world." Her eyes narrowed. She expected arrogance or pleas for mercy, but instead, his words carried honesty. She circled him, as if studying a strange animal. "Your kind," she said coldly, "is known for greed and violence. You burn your own lands you war among yourselves, and now you bring your chaos into our stars. Tell me, human, why should I spare your life?" Elias looked around the hall. The alien nobles who stood near the princess watched him with contempt, waiting for him to beg. Instead, he drew a slow breath and replied, "Because death ends all choices. Life keeps them open. If you kill me, nothing changes. If you let me live, perhaps something can." Murmurs rose among the nobles. Some called his words foolish. Others seemed unsettled by the calmness with which he spoke. Serenia studied him longer, her silver eyes gleaming with doubt. She stepped closer, her voice sharp. "You speak kindly, but kindness from a human is always a mask. Do you want something from me? Do you wish for wealth, power, or perhaps even my throne?" The hall went silent at her words. All eyes turned to Elias, waiting for him to reveal his hidden ambition, but Elias only smiled faintly, his expression gentle. "No, princess," he said softly. "I want peace." For the first time, Serenia hesitated. She had expected lies or flattery, not this simple answer. Her people had always believed humans were driven by hunger for conquest. Yet here was one who stood in chains and still spoke of peace. "You confuse me, human," she admitted, though her voice remained firm. "Your people fire upon our ships, and still you speak as though you seek friendship. Why are you kind to me? Why do you look at me not as your enemy, but as if I were another person?" Elias held her gaze, and his answer carried no hesitation. "Because hatred builds nothing, it only destroys. But kindness can build bridges where war has built walls." A silence stretched across the hall. Serenia felt something stir within her chest, though she did not show it. His words were strange, almost foolish, yet they carried a weight she could not ignore. One of the alien generals stepped forward, his voice harsh. "Princess, do not be deceived. This human seeks to twist your heart with false words. Execute him now before he spreads his poison further." The nobles shouted in agreement. "Yes, end him. Show no mercy to the invader." Serenia raised her hand, silencing them. Her eyes remained fixed on Elias, who knelt calmly as though he feared nothing. She could end his life with a single word. She could please her court, remove the risk, and strengthen her image as a future queen. Yet something inside her whispered that if she killed this human, she might destroy more than just a life. She might destroy the chance to learn something her empire had never known. At last she spoke, her voice firm but quiet. "No, this human will not be executed. He will remain under my watch." The court erupted in protest, but Serenia's word was law. She turned away from Elias, hiding the storm of thoughts within her. As the soldiers pulled him to his feet, Elias gave her a small nod of gratitude. In that moment, Serenia realized she had chosen not only to spare him, but also to open a door, one that could never again be closed. Cliffhanger. Outside the grand hall, whispers spread quickly. The alien princess had spared a human, and the seeds of doubt and rebellion began to grow in the shadows. The decision of Princess Serenia shocked the alien court. Never before had an enemy soldier, much less a human, been spared. The nobles whispered of weakness and the generals muttered of danger. Yet Serenia stood firm. The human Elias Veron would not die, not yet. He was placed under her watch, guarded at all times. Though his hands were free, he was not allowed to step beyond the crystal walls of the royal palace. At first, Elias expected cold silence from the princess, but soon she began to visit him in the palace gardens where he was kept under guard. The gardens were unlike anything he had seen before, trees with silver leaves that shimmered in the sun, flowers that glowed softly even at night, streams of crystal water flowing through channels carved into the marble ground. Elias would often sit by the water gazing at the alien beauty, and it was there Serenia began to question him. "You sit as if this place were your home," she said one morning, her sharp silver eyes watching him closely. "Do you not feel shame, human, knowing you are our prisoner?" Elias glanced at the glowing flowers. "Prison or not, beauty should be appreciated. Shame only blinds us to it." Her brow furrowed. Strange words. A human soldier who sees flowers instead of chains. Elias smiled faintly. "Perhaps soldiers are not so different from anyone else. We bleed, we hope, we dream. Even in war." These words unsettled Serenia. All her life she had been told that humans were cruel and primitive, yet this one spoke gently, as though his heart carried no hatred. Still, she remained cautious. "Tell me, Elias," she said, her voice harder now. "What drives your people to fight? Is it land, gold, or power? Do you not see how destructive you are?" He was silent for a moment, then replied, "Humans have fought for all those things, yes. But that is not all we are. We also fight to protect those we love. We fight to build homes, to defend the weak, to keep hope alive when the world grows dark. That is part of our legacy too." His words lingered in her mind long after she left the garden. That night, Serenia lay awake in her chambers, staring at the glowing ceiling above her bed. Could it be true? Could a species known for violence also carry such depth? The next day, she returned with more questions. She asked about Earth, about its people, its oceans, its skies. Elias spoke of towering mountains and deep forests, of cities that rose like shining giants, and of quiet villages where people still lived close to the land. He told her stories of humanity's struggles, how they fought terrible wars, but also how they rebuilt, forgave, and grew stronger together. "Your kind is contradictory," Serenia said after listening to him. "Violent, yet compassionate. Fragile, yet enduring. I do not understand." Elias looked at her kindly. "That is humanity. We are not perfect. But we learn. We rise after falling. That is what makes us who we are. For the first time, Serenia found herself listening, not as a princess, but as a student. The human stories were unlike the tales told by her empire's teachers. She began to see humanity not only as an enemy, but as a mirror, showing flaws, but also possibilities. But their growing connection did not go unnoticed. One evening, as Elias walked the palace halls under guard, a shadow moved. A soldier loyal to the generals drew his blade, stepping forward to strike Elias from behind. But before the weapon could fall, Serenia appeared, her hand raised high. A pulse of energy burst from her palm, throwing the attacker back against the wall. The guards rushed to subdue the traitor, but Serenia's gaze remained fixed on Elias. "You are reckless, human," she said sharply, though her voice trembled. "Do you not realize how many wish to see you dead?" Elias bowed his head slightly. "I do. Yet here I still stand. Perhaps because someone believes my life has meaning." Her silver eyes narrowed, but she could not hide the truth from herself. She had saved him, not as duty, but as choice. And it frightened her. That night she confronted him again in the garden. The moonlight reflected on the silver leaves as she asked, "Why? Why do you not hate me, Elias? I am an empire that wars against your people." The palace had grown tense in ways Princess Serenia had never known. Whispers traveled through the halls like wildfire. Nobles questioned her decisions. Generals plotted behind closed doors. And all the while, Elias remained under her protection, moving with quiet confidence, unafraid of those who despised him. It was in the quiet moments, however, that the most dangerous revelations appeared. One evening, as Serenia and Elias walked through the high terraces overlooking the glowing city, she asked again the question that had troubled her for weeks. "Elias," she began, her voice soft in the wind, "tell me honestly, how does humanity fight injustice? You speak of kindness and hope, but what of those who betray trust, who exploit others? How do your people survive when others are cruel?" Elias leaned against the terrace railing. The alien city lights reflected in his eyes. "We fight, princess, not always with weapons, but with courage and truth. Even when others are cruel, we protect what we can. We admit mistakes, forgive when possible, and keep moving forward. That is the human way." Serenia considered his words carefully. She had been raised in a world that valued power above all else. Strength meant control, and control meant obedience. But Elias's stories challenged everything she had learned. In the following days, Serenia began investigating her empire's inner workings, secretly observing meetings of the council. What she found shocked her. Officials who claimed to defend Zerion were exploiting war for personal gain. Food supplies were being hoarded, technology stolen, and even some generals profited from battles that left countless citizens in ruin. When she shared her findings with Elias, he nodded gravely. "Every empire has corruption, princess. What matters is whether someone has the courage to stand against it. You can be that someone." She stared at him in disbelief. "Me? I am a princess, yes, but a pawn in the council's game. If I act, I risk everything. My people, my family." Elias placed a hand gently on her arm. "Courage does not mean the absence of fear. It means acting despite it. And sometimes acting is the only way to protect those we love." Those words echoed in Serenia's mind for nights on end. She began to see her world differently. The generals who demanded war, the nobles who plotted betrayals. They were no longer untouchable figures of authority. They were humans too, flawed and greedy, but not invincible. One evening, a trusted palace aide approached her with urgent news. "Princess, the council grows suspicious. They have noticed your time with the human. If they confront you openly, they may take drastic measures." Serenia felt a chill. She had hoped to act carefully, but her choices had already put her in danger. Yet she could not abandon Elias. Not now, when his presence had opened her eyes to truths she could never unsee. She called him to her private chamber. Elias entered calmly, as though he sensed the weight she carried. Serenia looked at him with a mixture of fear and determination. They will try to force me to end you, she admitted. They see our friendship as betrayal. I do not know if I can protect you forever. Elias smiled faintly. You have already done more than I could have hoped. By questioning, by listening, by seeing me as a person and not an enemy. You have already changed the course of history, Princess. Do not underestimate that. Her eyes softened, and she felt a strange warmth. She had been taught to rule with certainty, to act with precision. But Elias had shown her that strength could come from compassion, that power did not always lie in domination. Days later, Serenia discovered a hidden plot. A group of generals planned to stage an attack within the palace, blaming the human for a rebellion. If successful, Elias would be executed, and she would be forced to appear loyal or face death herself. She gathered her closest allies in secret, speaking quietly. We cannot let them succeed. The human is not our enemy. We will protect him, and in doing so, we will reveal the truth of the council's corruption. The group nodded, though fear was evident in their eyes. To defy the council was dangerous, perhaps deadly, yet the conviction in Serenia's voice inspired them. They agreed to help, quietly preparing for the confrontation that would come. Meanwhile, Elias remained calm, unaware of the full danger. Princess, he said one afternoon, you seem troubled, is it the council? Serenia shook her head. No, it is not just the council, it is me. I am learning that what is right is not always easy, and yet I cannot ignore it. I cannot ignore you. Elias regarded her with quiet understanding. That is courage, Serenia. Not the courage of a soldier, but the courage of someone who dares to do what is right, even when all odds are against them. Her heart pounded as she realized she had begun to trust him completely, not only for her life but for guidance, for wisdom, for the chance to see her empire in a new light. She had grown to rely on his perspective, though she would never admit it openly. The night before the council's next meeting, a small explosion rocked the palace grounds. Guards rushed to contain the fire, and Serenia knew immediately that the generals were testing their strength. They would attempt to pin blame on Elias at the earliest opportunity. She found him in the gardens, under the silver-leaved trees, calm, as ever. It is happening sooner than I expected, she said. They will try to frame you tomorrow, and if they succeed, there will be no escape. Elias looked at her steadily. Then we prepare, Princess. We do not wait for fear to decide. Our actions, we act together. She nodded, her resolve firming. For the first time in her life, Serenia did not feel alone. She had an ally who saw truth beyond politics, beyond tradition, beyond hatred. And she knew that by standing with him, she was planting the seeds of something greater than either of them alone, a possibility of a world where humans and aliens could see each other not as enemies but as equals. Cliffhanger. As dawn broke, Serenia prepared to confront the council. In the shadows, the generals whispered among themselves. The princess grows bold, one said. If she will not end the human, then we must act. Both will fall, human and heir alike. The palace was alive with tension. Rumors of betrayal had spread like wildfire. Serenia's allies moved cautiously, knowing that one wrong word could trigger the wrath of the generals. And in the midst of it all, Princess Serenia and Elias Veron prepared for what they both knew might be their only chance: escape. It was the middle of the night when Serenia and Elias left the safety of her chambers. Cloaked in shadows, they navigated the winding corridors and secret passages of the palace. The glow from the crystal walls cast soft reflections, guiding their path as they avoided patrols of suspicious guards. Each step felt like a risk, yet both moved with quiet purpose, their trust in one another growing stronger with every passing moment. Finally, they reached a hidden hangar. Ships of various designs rested in rows, some ready for war, others in disrepair. Serenia led Elias to a small, sleek vessel that had remained unnoticed by the council. Its engines hummed quietly, a faint promise of freedom. "Are you ready?" she asked, her voice low but steady. Elias nodded. For freedom and for truth. They entered the vessel and Serenia expertly activated the controls. As the ship lifted from the palace grounds, alarms began to sound in the distance. The generals had discovered their absence. Red lights flashed and sirens wailed across the city. Elias glanced at Serenia. "They'll follow us." She did not answer with words. Instead, she pushed the vessel faster, weaving through the air currents and city towers. Missiles streaked past in the night sky, but she maneuvered with skill born of training and determination. The generals would not take them without a fight, yet she refused to be caught. As they broke free of the city's atmosphere, a sudden strike from an enemy warship rocked the vessel. Elias was thrown against the control panel, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead. Serenia's heart pounded. Without hesitation, she steadied the ship and activated the emergency shields. "We can make it," she said firmly, her hands steady on the controls despite her fear. "Hold on." Elias groaned but nodded. "I trust you, Princess. Always." The ship broke through the alien atmosphere and entered the cold emptiness of space. Stars stretched endlessly in every direction, and for a brief moment, peace washed over them. Elias breathed deeply, his eyes reflecting the distant suns. "Even in the dark there is light," he said softly. Serenia glanced at him. "You speak as though hope is a weapon." "It is," Elias replied. "Sometimes the strongest weapon we carry is belief in something better." But even as they drifted further from the planet, danger was not over. A fleet of alien ships pursued them relentlessly. Serenia knew she could not outrun them forever. They would have to find refuge, a place no one would think to look, a hidden moon or an abandoned station in the outskirts of the system. After hours of careful navigation, they discovered a small uninhabited moon. Its surface was rugged and cratered, perfect for hiding from prying eyes. Serenia landed the vessel in a sheltered valley, the engines cooling with a soft hum. Elias slumped against the wall, exhaustion and pain evident in every movement. "Hold still," Serenia said gently, guiding him to a comfortable position. "We'll tend to your wounds." Using the alien technology at her disposal, she activated a healing device. A warm, soft light enveloped Elias, closing cuts and easing the bruises he had sustained. He winced once but relaxed as the pain diminished. The moon was quiet, almost peaceful, but Serenia and Elias knew that calm would not last. Scouts from the generals had traced their escape, and soon their hiding place would be discovered. Time was short, and action was necessary. Serenia had made her decision. The council must know the truth, the corruption, the greed, the manipulations, all of it. And if they refused to listen, she and Elias would find another way to show her people what had been hidden from them for so long. "Elias," she said one morning as the twin suns rose over the cratered horizon, "we cannot wait. The council will move against us soon, and my people may be lost if they continue to follow lies. We must act." Elias nodded. "Then we do not act as fugitives. We act as witnesses. The truth is our strongest weapon." With careful planning, they returned to the capital under the cover of darkness, using old tunnels and abandoned transport lines unknown to the generals. The city above was tense. Soldiers patrolled more frequently, and whispers of rebellion grew louder. Serenia and Elias moved quietly, their steps careful but determined. When they arrived at the council chamber, the guards immediately challenged them. "Princess Serenia, you are under arrest for treason," one shouted. Serenia raised her hand, her voice steady. "I am not a traitor, I bring the truth." The council chamber was filled with nobles and generals, their expressions a mixture of anger and suspicion. They had expected Serenia to beg, to surrender, to justify herself with lies. Instead, she walked confidently to the center of the chamber, Elias at her side. "You call this human an enemy," Serenia began, her voice echoing through the hall. "Yet he has shown more courage, more honesty, and more care for our people than many of you here. He is not the threat. The threat comes from those who exploit war for their own gain." Gasps filled the chamber. Some nobles whispered to one another, shocked by her words. Generals clenched their fists, anger simmering just beneath the surface. Elias stepped forward, his voice calm, but powerful. "People of Zarian," he said, "I am no enemy. I am a human, yes, and yes, our species has made mistakes. But listen carefully. Listen to the lessons we have learned. We fight, yes, but we also rebuild. We forgive when possible. We do not seek power through deceit. We seek truth, understanding, and a chance to make things better." He paused, letting his words sink in. "Your leaders tell you war is necessary, but the proof of corruption is here." Elias projected images he had secretly collected, records of hoarded resources, stolen technology, and falsified battle reports. Every noble and soldier could see the truth for themselves. A hush fell over the chamber. Some generals turned pale, realizing that their crimes had been exposed. Others shook with rage, but even they could not deny the evidence. Serenia raised her voice. "I will not let my people suffer while a few grow rich and powerful. I will stand with the truth, with the human who has shown me what courage and kindness truly mean. If you oppose us, you oppose the future of Zarion." Some members of the council shifted uneasily. Whispers of dissent grew louder. For the first time, many began to question the generals they had once followed without hesitation. The generals, enraged, attempted to seize Elias, but the chamber erupted in chaos. Loyalists to Serenia and those inspired by Elias's words defended them. The room became a battlefield of words, courage, and conviction. Amidst the turmoil, Serenia stood firm, her eyes on Elias. She realized that she had changed, not just for herself, but for her people. She had learned from him that leadership was not about power or fear, but about vision, honesty, and the willingness to stand for what is right. One of the council elders, a wise and respected figure, finally spoke. "Enough. We cannot ignore the truth we see before us. These revelations, they cannot be denied. Perhaps it is time to reconsider the path we have taken." The generals were stunned. Their authority, once unchallenged, now wavered. Even their most loyal soldiers hesitated, seeing the courage of Serenia and Elias and the evidence of corruption. Elias spoke again, his voice steady. "This is not about humans or Zarions. This is about justice, fairness, and the future of your world. Leadership is not measured by how many you can defeat, but by how many you can inspire. That is humanity's legacy. And today, you have the chance to embrace it." The room fell silent. For the first time, the people of Zarion truly considered the possibility that war was not inevitable, that kindness and courage could shape their empire more than fear and greed ever could. The generals, realizing their power had been broken, attempted one final act of defiance. But the combined loyalty of the chamber and the clear evidence of corruption prevented them from acting. They were left with no choice but to retreat, their plans exposed, and their authority diminished. Serenia turned to Elias, a quiet smile on her face. "You were right," she said softly. "Truth is stronger than fear. Courage stronger than deceit, and kindness stronger than hatred." Elias nodded, looking around the chamber. "It always has been, Princess. Humanity's legacy is not built on domination, but on hope, on the ability to rise and build bridges where others see walls. And now, perhaps it can inspire your people too." With the council divided and the general's corruption revealed, Zarion began to change. The first steps toward peace were taken, led by a princess who had dared to see differently, and a human who had shown what courage and kindness could achieve. Serenia and Elias stood together, a symbol of unity, their bond stronger than ever. The empire's future was uncertain, but now it was filled with possibilities, hope, and the promise that humanity's legacy could shine even among the stars. Cliffhanger. As they left the council chamber, the two looked out over the city. The war might not be fully over, but something greater had begun. A chance for two worlds to learn from each other, and for kindness to shape the fate of both. The council chamber was quiet now, the chaos of rebellion fading into tense stillness. Generals who had once held absolute power were forced to retreat, their schemes exposed, their influence diminished. Yet even in victory, Princess Serenia and Elias Varan knew their mission was far from complete. The empire itself had been shaken, but old fears and prejudices did not vanish overnight. Serenia stood before the council once more, Elias by her side. "This is not just about punishing the corrupt," she said, her silver eyes shining with determination. "It is about building a future where our people can live without fear, where truth, justice, and courage guide us, not greed and lies." Elias spoke as well, addressing both council and citizens alike. "I came as a visitor from another world, yet I see the same struggles in your empire that my people faced on Earth. Power alone does not ensure survival. Compassion, understanding, and the willingness to learn from others, these are the true marks of strength. Your empire can embrace these qualities if you choose to act with courage." The nobles and citizens listened, some in disbelief, others in awe. Change was uncomfortable, and fear whispered that old ways were safer. Yet the evidence of corruption, combined with the courage of their princess and the wisdom of this human, could not be ignored. One of the elder council members, a respected advisor named Thalan, finally spoke. "Princess Serenia, you have risked everything to reveal the truth. And this human, he has shown qualities we have long forgotten: patience, honesty, and courage. Perhaps it is time we reconsider the path of war and choose a path of cooperation." The generals, though reluctant, had no choice. Their conspiracies were exposed, their power weakened. They murmured among themselves, realizing that the old methods of fear and intimidation no longer held sway. The council slowly began to support Serenia's vision, the first steps toward peace taking shape. As the days passed, treaties were drawn up, not only among alien factions but also with human representatives. Communication lines reopened, and emissaries traveled between worlds to negotiate the terms of a new alliance. Though distrust remained, the foundations of cooperation had been laid. Serenia and Elias worked tirelessly, guiding discussions, mediating disputes, and ensuring that the voices of ordinary citizens were heard. Slowly, the empire began to see that the future could be built not on domination, but on mutual respect and understanding. One evening, after a long day of negotiations, Serenia and Elias stood atop the palace balcony, overlooking the city. The sun set behind alien towers, casting long shadows across streets filled with people curious and hopeful. "You have changed more than I imagined, Elias," Serenia said softly. "Not just the empire, but me. I see now that leadership is not only about command. It is about vision, courage, and the willingness to stand for what is right even when it is dangerous." Elias smiled faintly, looking at the horizon. "And you have changed more than you realize. You have shown your people that strength can come from kindness, that courage is measured not by how many enemies you defeat, but by how many lives you touch. That is the human legacy." Serenia looked at him, her expression serious. "Then tell me one last time, why were you kind to me, Elias? Even when your people had suffered at the hands of my empire?" He turned to her, eyes steady and sincere. "Because kindness is not a weapon, princess. It is a choice. I did not seek power, wealth, or influence. I sought only to show that one action can make a difference. Your people and mine deserve that chance."